Welcome to the Holding Time podcast. Here we discuss breastfeeding in all its complexity, the ups and downs, the challenges, the triumphs. Whether you're expectant, a new mother, or simply interested, I hope you'll appreciate the incredible warrior women who are featured in this series.
Pregnancy was amazing. In fact, I always wanted children, and I always wanted them like in my 20s. As it happens, I had my first when I was 39. So it's one of those things. I loved being pregnant so much that actually if I had started in my 20s, I'd probably have 10 by now, because I absolutely loved it. And when I gave birth, I actually missed the pregnancy. I got a bit sad because of hormones. She was induced because they were keeping an eye on her because they thought she was going to be big, and then it turns out she was small. So she was induced at 37 weeks. So I'd heard all the horror stories and, how it might make breastfeeding harder and everything like that. And before I'd even had the pessary, I was already 1 centimetre dilated. And I went in at 6 p.m. My waters broke at midnight. And by 2:47, I had this little one on me and feeding.
So you basically probably could pop out another 10 in the next couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably I could.
That's great. Oh, that's lovely to hear that it was easy, because I do just hear quite a lot of difficult stories.
Like at first I got really upset when they said she was small, and I was a bit panicky, and I looked up stuff, and then I thought, no, she feels fine. She's kicking. She feels strong. And I just thought, actually, no, I think, and I said even before I went into the induced, I said she might come before the induction. I just felt that she was ready. And then, like, my breasts didn't grow at all. In fact, I lost weight during pregnancy, like healthily, not so I kind of ended up being the same weight as when I found out I was pregnant as when I gave birth. So as I was losing, obviously she was growing.
Wow.
Yeah, my midwife was actually a girl I used to babysit, and my neighbour. And when she came out, she said, right, let's get her on the breast. And I went, I don't think I've got any milk. And that's the other thing you hear about people who don't have milk. I don't have anything. Well, she just started squeezing, and then this colostrum came out, and I was like really shocked, because if anything, I felt my boobs had got smaller. So the journey started then really great. So within an hour of her being born, she was on. And I was like, ow, that hurts, and I'm really lucky because I have a best friend who had 2 already, and she's been very honest about her breastfeeding journey, and she was very determined, and she told me about the horrors that people don't like to say, that it does hurt. It's not easy. So when I sort of started and it was hurting, I was like, oof, I was kind of just kept thinking this is normal. And so carried on. She was growing well. Her latch was good. She had a tiny tongue tie, but nothing that needed doing anything about. But the pain, just the not being able to do anything, like you just have to sit and lie back, and then that's all you're focusing on. So the pain probably isn't as terrible as it sounds, except for the fact that you're thinking about while you're breastfeeding, because you're trying to get her to latch properly. I had a breastfeeding expert come to the house and watch me breastfeed, and because everyone was saying the latch was good, but it just didn't feel good, and so she gave me a couple of other tips. So all the struggles in the early breastfeeding, and I had Raynaud as well, which was really horrible, and so I got really uptight about going out in the early days, because it was the cold that would cause the pain, and I'd been treating myself, got a doctor to treat me for thrush for almost a month, and it obviously wasn't clearing because it wasn't thrush. And again, because of COVID, you weren't really properly seeing a doctor, so no one was giving you a proper diagnosis. They were just going off what you were telling them you were suffering from. And it was only one morning when I went to grab the paper from outside, and I hadn't fed her at that point, that the pain came, and I thought, whoa, this isn't from breastfeeding. This is so. And then I clicked and looked it up, and so I was able to get that treated. So as soon as I got that treated, I was desperate to get out really and breastfeed, because I'm not shy. And that's the whole point of me wanting to breastfeed is the ease I'm a lazy mum because, you know, my sister did bottles and filling up bottles, and that just sent me over the edge, the thought of sterilising all those bottles. And for me, I can just go out for a walk and I only need to pack nappies and change clothes and I can go straight out. I don't need to worry about food. And now she's 7 months of weaning, I have to start thinking, oh, hang on, what snacks can I get for her? And what, you know, if we're out for a bit longer and she wants something a bit solid. So I love going out. I've never had any issues. People just don't really react. So, which is great.
That's basically what I always hear. But it's always a surprise for mothers to hear that from me. Like, I've spoken to, I don't know how many women, not a single one has ever had a problem. Breastfeeding in public is kind of a myth that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Or if it is a problem, it's a problem somewhere else that I've never met anyone from that area. It's really nice that you've got to 7 months without those sorts of problems. And it's lovely to hear that you find it easy and that it is convenient, because those are the things that are associated with formula generally, but it's a bit of a myth that formula's easy. It's actually quite a hassle.
The effort you put in earlier on breastfeeding, although it's harder then, you can have more if you want. Yes, the effort you put in earlier on to breastfeed is totally worth it now for me. Like, those early days, did I want to continue? There were days I really didn't. The other thing is, my cousin who breastfed, she told me that it was painful for the first 8 weeks. And so once I knew that, I had that 8-week goal in my mind, which meant that I just did persevere. I mean, my health visitor said, you know, you really have done so well, because I think on top of that, after the 8 weeks, I then was suffering with the Raynaud. So it wasn't as short as 8 weeks, but I just knew it would get better. And it has got better. It's
amazing how many people drop off at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, because they measure initiation of breastfeeding and it's like nationally about 72% or something, or maybe 75%. And then it's gone up a bit actually with COVID. And then statistic at 6 weeks is more like 34%.
When I was really struggling with the pain, trying to see a doctor, and I kind of feel like, you know, you have your health visitor and even your midwife, you know, when I thought it was thrush and I had to see a GP. And I remember phoning my GP in tears and like just saying to them, I said, I'm trying to breastfeed and I can't continue if this pain continues. I can't wait. They wanted me to wait a week. I said, I will stop by then. And I just felt like really there needs to be more support medically, faster as well. You know, I mean, you hear about people who've had mastitis. I luckily haven't had that, but I've had blocked ducts, and I've always been able to clear it on my own. But if I hadn't, and I had a GP that was saying wait a week, you know, that for a lot of people would be throwing the towel in, because why would they continue if it's they're in that much pain? I'd never really watched, I saw friends breastfeeding, but I never watched, you know, and that sounds, well, you wouldn't, would you? But I went to a party and I had this little girl and she was just, her face straight in and watching and looking and, you know, even like just asking me so many questions. And I just thought, that's what you need, you know, as a woman who's going to breastfeed. That's the kind of curiosity that you need, you know. And she was asking all the questions that, you know, like an expert would say to me, you want this, like the cheeks to do this and you want the mouth to be doing this. And she was like, why is the mouth doing that? And, you know, why is the nipple shaped like that? And it was really interesting.
You could sort of summarise from that probably we need to be learning it from 3. That's a receptivity, isn't it? And a curiosity about breastfeeding that's completely innate. And I definitely saw that. And, you know, parents would pull their children away and you'd say, no, it's totally fine. Let them watch. Because really that they're becoming familiar with it. And that is familiarity on a really deep level. And when it comes to, you know, birthing a baby and surviving with that baby, it's an instinct, isn't it? Yeah.
I was really impressed because this friend hadn't breastfed. Through no fault of her own, she really did try and she was very upset that she couldn't. So when her daughter came over and I was a bit like, oh, is this? And she was really made up that her daughter was interested. And I just think that's lovely because, you know, like I wasn't breastfed, and like a lot of my mum's friends are really impressed that I persevered because they didn't.
But if you're 39, then when you were born and when your mum's friends were having kids, there was no encouragement for women to breastfeed.
No,
in fact, it was pretty actively discouraged, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
And what about your partner? Does he come from a breast? Because I sort of imagine being Ghanaian, he would have quite a strong breastfeeding cultural inheritance.
Yeah, my partner's been brilliant actually because of his culture. Then yeah, breastfeeding. Like I kind of in the early days almost felt a bit of pressure because I thought that's what he will want, and if I can't do it. And actually, I've been really, he's very into breastfeeding. He thinks it's the best, you know, would want me to do it. But along my journey, which has been quite difficult at times, he has completely supported, you know, if I wanted to stop. And in the early days, for him to sort of be part of it, you know, I used to express into a bottle so he could feed. So he is more than happy if it didn't work and it wasn't working, to actually go to formula or express milk. And that was really fantastic actually, that I had that support either way. You know, especially on those days when I was really struggling, he was just like, well, if it's too much, you're not failing. And I think that's the problem with breastfeeding and with bottle feeding. And a lot of people feel this failure, you know, if they can't keep it up or they don't last as long. I mean, I thought I'd breastfeed for 6 months. We're now 7 months. I'm not really ready to give it up, although I'm going back to school. So I'm going to have to try and manage that. And I think one thing is, you know, with a lot of friends that have given birth around the same time, you're not failing if you stop or you don't manage as long as you want, because it's everyone's individual journey. And to me, like, you know, I see myself as the lazy mum because I don't have to prepare the bottles. I don't have to sterilise the bottles. So, you know, I don't think there's an easy option when it comes to feeding your baby. I think it's a challenge however you feed your baby. But for me, breastfeeding is very special, and I'm really, really glad that I'm still doing it and that I've managed. And, you know, I just would recommend it to anyone to really try it.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to everyone involved, our funders, Cheshire and Merseyside Women's Health and Maternity Programme, Arts Council England Lottery Awards for their support, along with all the amazing mothers and partners who have helped to make this project happen. You can find out more about the project by visiting holdingtime.org.